Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. A lot of hype going around the Colorado-Oregon matchup out in the Pac-12. Not enough people are talking about Oregon State heading on the road to play a Washington State Cougars team that you look at both of these teams. Jay Dickert at Washington State, Jonathan Smith at Oregon State. These two teams are legit contenders in the Pac-12, and they're not going to kind of garner the national media attention that many other of those Pac-12 programs are, like USC, Colorado, and Oregon. That being said, they both play really good defense. They have offenses that are extremely efficient. Excited to get into this one because, again, you guys, if you listen to me in the offseason, you know how high I am on Oregon State and how complete this team is in terms of being able to run the football, play really good defense. And then Washington State, I mean, Cam Ward looks to have taken that next step. We all knew he had the talent, starting to put it together. Two of the most dangerous teams in the Pac-12. Excited to get into it. Now, before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support for these game breakdowns truly has been incredible. If you do enjoy the content, you want to support the boys, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, and again, the best part about doing this is hearing from you guys in the comment section, chopping it up about ball, learning from you guys. So let us know your game picks, some of your keys to the game. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with this Oregon State offense going up against the Washington State defense that's been very impressive throughout the first three games. You look back at that Wisconsin game, they held Wisconsin to 3.1 yards per carry. Those are two really talented backs behind a really solid offensive line. Washington State got it done. Guys like Ron Stone and Brennan Jackson, I would challenge people to find me a better group of edge rushers than those two guys, not only in terms of rushing the passer, but also in terms of stopping the run. I mean, they're both really, really strong at a point of attack, taking on double teams, shedding blocks. Ron Stone and Brennan Jackson are kind of the heart and soul of this Washington State defense, who's been very good against the run. And they're going up against an Oregon State team that wants to be physical and run the football behind a phenomenal offensive line and two running backs that, again, rival some of the better running back rooms in the country. Damian Martinez right now, don't look now, averaging 8.8 yards per carry. Deshaun Fenwick averaging 5.8 yards per carry. And this is why I was so high on DJU heading to Oregon State, where he was not going to be the centerpiece of this offense. He's obviously extremely talented. You watch the games, he makes some throws that, no disrespect to the Oregon State quarterbacks that were playing last year, but those guys couldn't have made it. And DJU, it allows Oregon State to have like another element of the passing attack. That being said, this offense does not just go through DJU. There's not a ton of responsibility like there was at Clemson for him to kind of do everything in this offense, because this is a really good offensive line that not only gives him great pass protection, but lets him establish that run, and you see the passing lanes open up a little bit more. My biggest matchup here in kind of determining who wins this game is, can Oregon State get that run game going against a Washington State Cougar defense that is really, really good against the run? Again, only averaging 3.6 yards per carry to opposing running backs. The secondary, pretty damn solid, 62% completion percentage given up. One other thing I would look for Oregon State, especially if they're not able to establish the run like they've had against some of those group of five teams that they've played earlier in the season, is kind of unlocking some of that skill talent on the outside. And I'm not saying you have a first-round wide receiver in that room, but you have some playmakers that are electric with the football. You take a look at a guy like Silas Bolden, like Anthony Gould. Anthony Gould only has 6 catches on the year for 156 yards. He's averaging 26 yards per catch. Silas Bolden, one of the more electric players in the Pac-12 with the football in his hand. Can this offense balance out running the football, but also getting it to guys in space and kind of hitting those explosive plays through the air? I think they've done a really good job of it up until this point. Can they do it on the road against a Washington State defense that is really, really assignment disciplined and overall just a really solid defense? Now, flipping the script, this Oregon State defense, and this is partially why I'm so high on both of these Pac-12 teams, is you see some other programs, like they got the firepower, right? Washington has an elite offense. Oregon, USC, really dynamic offenses. None of those defenses are as good as these two defenses that you're going to be seeing this Saturday. And Oregon State has been phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball, and there's a bunch of really solid players, but as a group, as that 11-man group, it is such a disciplined defense that's physical up front, only allowing 2 yards per carry to opposing running backs, only a 59.6% completion percentage. You guys asked why I was so high on Oregon State as opposed to, and I'm high on USC, Oregon. I think the Pac-12 is loaded, but why I was so high on Oregon State when not as many people were is because this defense and the physicality that they bring to the Pac-12, it's at a little bit of a different level. And it's going to let them compete with all these top teams in the Pac-12. Now, looking at Washington State's offense, and we said this at the top, Cam Ward looks to have taken that step, right? We knew Cam Ward coming from the FCS level was one of the more sought-after transfers last year. And you saw some growing pains, right? Going from the FCS to a Power 5 team, there's going to be some growing pains. And you saw that. But I want to know what you also saw is the arm talent that is dripping all over Cam Ward. I mean, extremely talented arm, can layer his throws, can drive him in when he needs to. I said last year, just about 12 months ago, I texted some of my buddies and said, Cam Ward reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, that's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, Patrick Mahomes being the best quarterback that we've seen play football in a very long time. That being said, the arm talent that Cam Ward has, I mean, it is truly special, and you're starting to see it kind of put it together. I mean, 999 yards, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, completing 72% of his balls. This is a very dynamic Washington State offense that I think is schemed up masterfully. You got some really good wide receivers, but when you watch that Washington State offense and when it is cooking, guys like Lincoln Victor, Josh Kelly, Kai Williams, they're in so much space. In terms of the schematics of this Washington State offense is going to challenge opposing defenses, especially an Oregon State defense, in terms of getting their guys out in space, letting their guys be kind of playmakers after the catch. I think it's a beautifully schemed offense run by a quarterback that I think has put it together and can make every throw that offense wants him to make. This is a special offense. Now, if I did have one criticism is the lack of ability to run the football. Right, Nakia Watson, who I think is a really good running back, only averaging 3 yards per carry. Your leading rusher on the season is Cam Ward, who is phenomenal at extending plays and kind of beating teams with his legs, but not necessarily a recipe that you want throughout the season. Can Washington State get something going on the run game? Again, I'm not saying this has to be the Oregon State offense where you're just going to grind teams down into the dirt, but you do have to establish some sort of run game. I'm looking for Washington State to get that going in whatever that way looks like, maybe outside tackles with some of those speedier backs, or if you think you can grind Oregon State down, Nakia Watson between the tackles. I'll be looking for that for sure. It's going to be a really dynamic offense that when it is cooking and running fast and picking up yards, it puts their defense on the heels versus an Oregon State defense that is going to get after Cam Ward, that is going to challenge that run game. This is such an intriguing matchup. And to kind of get into the pick here, Oregon State heading on the road, and I believe the line, we can check it again. It's been kind of bumping around. Oregon State 3-point favorites on the road. And I'll start with this. Pullman, that is one of the harder places to play in college football. I feel like none of those Pac-12 teams, even Corvallis, like those are hard places to go on the road and win. I like Washington State being at home here. My pick, though, I'm going to ride with Oregon State because I like both of these teams, but Oregon State was my team heading in. I think they're still my team kind of after the first 3 games, and I'll tell you why. One, they're able to run the football. I think the time of possession will be a big factor in this game. I think Oregon State's offense is going to be on the field a hell of a lot longer than this Washington State offense will be. I think DJU will be able to do enough. And again, I'm not in the camp where DJU is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, although I think he is one of the more talented quarterbacks in the country. That being said, I think he's a perfect fit in this Oregon State offense where he's working off that run game. He's got a lot of throwing lanes to work with, and he has the arm to make all of those throws. And then on the defensive side of the ball, this arguably might be the best defense in the Pac-12, maybe outside of Utah. I love Washington State. I certainly can see them winning this game at home. There seems to be something about this Washington State team. But as of right now, I'm leaning Oregon State slightly just because I think they're the more complete team on the offensive side of the ball in terms of being able to throw, but also run the football. And then on defense, they've been just so damn solid. Give me Oregon State. That being said, a phenomenal game that I cannot wait to watch. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comment section how you guys are feeling, and we'll talk to y'all later.